Yo, what's good? Welcome to Counter Currents. This is your host, Petey Steele.
And your co-host, Elena Torres. And today we have not one, but two guests, both hilarious comics. One is someone who's new to the podcast, who we're very excited to have. And the other one is a second-time guest, also a hilarious comic. We loved having him on last year. And he was so cool that after he headlined Arlington Draft House, he was like, hey, do you know of any good shows? And I was like, yeah. And he came to a mic that we used to do on Saturday nights. And inviting him to that mic ended up being a huge mistake because I had to follow him. And this is not a guy you want to follow. Trust me. I speak from personal experience. So please welcome the very hilarious Fabrizio Copano and Francisco Ramos. Yay!
Thank you. Let's just clarify, following after doing stand-up, not like in real life. Like it's like, you know, I don't want people to know, like, true. You don't follow this guy to his car. You will not do that.
Yeah,
he will.
Yeah, true. True. I maybe should have made that clear.
Don't follow me to my car either, but I'm not gonna. I'm probably just gonna be like, hey, what are you doing?
Follow him on social media. It's not that bad. It's
there you
go. That's a good follow.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. This is fun.
Oh, thanks for coming on. So you guys are coming to Arlington probably when this comes out next week. Have you guys been touring together a lot so far? Is this one of your first dates? Like, how have you guys been approaching comedy in pandemic?
For me, just pretty much virtually, you know, and then slowly have been doing some outside shows here in LA. Mm-hmm. Shows, drive-in shows. This is one of the first shows that I did. And then slowly they're like shows that are like more like with actual people in the audience, you know, like you can hear them, you know, mm-hmm. like backyards or parking lot and stuff like that. But yeah, that's actually this is gonna be my first time headlining after this whole pandemic, like doing like an actual hour, you know. So that's gonna be interesting because it's like new material with not the practice of it. So it's kind of like, you know, it's I don't like to bring like notebooks or notes or anything like that when I perform, because I like to be, but for this one I will, because you know, I'll have to, like, I even explain it to the audience, but it's like, you know, like the order of stuff, you know, sometimes it's such a thing that you forget. So but yeah,
been a long time. Yeah, I was in New York November or October, so I was able to do some shows in parks and open spaces. Mm-hmm. They have like some shows in rooftops and things like that, but also the same, it's like we haven't done anything significant in a year. So I did a lot of shows in Spanish and when I was back in Chile for a month, because it was just like in the window of time they open, and now they're back in lockdown, but it's still not the same, you know, like doing material in English and like doing it like, I don't know, in a constant basis, it's gonna take a minute. But still, I feel the good thing is like we're all in the same mud. Yeah. You don't feel alone. You don't feel like, oh, I'm rusty. It's like, oh, everyone is is in the same spot.
And I think the audience hopefully understands that too, you know, like, like, hey, you know, like, it's been a year, all right? It's like, you also, you know, have not done anything for a year, you know, so it's like, like, don't judge us, you know. Like,
right.
They don't even know how to react, you know.
Exactly.
A couple of these small gigs here, and people are looking around like, oh, is it okay to laugh at this or that? Like, they have all their social cues and stuff, because the only gatherings anybody's had for the last year have been like race riots, you know.
People don't remember how to laugh. Like, what I like no, that's not, I mean, people are just confused about their own laugh. So I mean, I think it's gonna take a minute to go back to what it was, but I'm still excited about like trying to figure out this again, so I'm looking forward for that.
Wow, that's a really actually brilliant statement. I mean, to speak of a comic as an artist, it's somebody that just, you know, it gets taken away from you for a year. It feels like such a huge thing, but then you still get excited to build it up from scratch again. That's a good testament to you, Fabrizio.
I think it's, I think that's pretty much, well, I'm not speaking for everyone, but I think for me in terms of material, yeah, I feel like I said I'm going back to when I first started,
Mhm.
like literally like just because of material, but also because the material that I had pre-pandemic, it feels weird to do now. It feels
Yeah.
kind of like, it just feels like, why am I talking about this shit when like, or
Yeah. Oh,
and not and it's not like I'm gonna talk about an hour on pandemic stuff, but like there's new stuff that I'm like that I want to talk about, and also, but I do feel like that, like when I first started, like working on the new bits and trying them out, and also even going to trying to get spots just to try them out and see
mhm.
like, did this work, does this work? So but also I am excited about it too, because it just gives you that whole new, it's kind of like a new another turn of how you, when you started comedy, you feel that excitement
Mhm.
of like, I want to get up, I want to do this, I want to try this up. So I feel the same way now too as well, with like with this new way of doing comedy.
Yeah, it's weird to be like, well, when you go to a bar and it's full of people and this happens, it's like
Yeah,
even it's
yeah.
even subtle stuff like that that's not necessarily,
Also,
that's not post-pandemic
yeah.
stuff.
Yes.
So it's been a year, but it feels like it's been 10.
A
So it's like,
hundred
oh,
percent.
remember when you go to a bar? It's like, yeah, when I was young, I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
those the good old days. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it was 2019.
Yeah.
But it feels
Yeah.
weird just to like and I think we all probably have I mean no one have like the right answer for this, but it's like you have to talk about the pandemic, of course, because it's like the biggest elephant in the every room in the planet, but at the
Right.
same time you don't want to like also do a lot of material about that
Yeah.
because it's so boring.
Yeah.
We hate
And
this
also
thing
people
so
are tired
much.
of listening to it, and like
Right.
they also want to like,
I
I
don't
came here not to hear about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
exactly
like,
to
Right.
stop thinking about it, and at the same
yeah.
time I feel like most of the jokes were made at the same time this thing was happening. We got a lot of like,
Hmm.
of course not through the lens of stand-up, but like a lot of memes, and we were listening to podcasts. Look, so there was a lot of jokes about like this horrible time. uh and I think, yeah, it's like you need to talk about it from your own point of view, get a solid joke about it, but then you have to move on
Yeah.
because it's a
Yeah.
nightmare.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still ongoing too. So people come out
Yeah.
here, you crack one of those jokes, they're like, I risked my life for this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and you
Yeah.
don't want to
Yeah.
also remind them too much that they're in a pandemic because they're
Yeah.
in the show, right?
Yeah. That's another thing too. I think it's like, yeah, it's having that balance of like, hey, you know what's going on, but also it's like, all right, let's not just full talk about it or also make it weird either.
Hmm.
So is that balance of like, I mean, I don't know, like we're doing normal before shows when you had to like, there was something that happened, like somebody got drunk and had to kick them out, and like you still have to kind of like, it's kind of like that feeling of like, well, I have to mention it, but I'm also not gonna talk about it for my whole set because it already happened or something.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's
it is weird.
figuring.
And how are the shows over there? Because I do want to ask that, like, how? So, because Peter, I mean, you were saying about like the crowds, like they're weird, and it's like, how are they reacting to this whole, because it's still limited capacity, right? It's not
Yeah.
full, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what you're going to see, like at Arlington, it fits almost 400 people, and their
Mm-hmm.
max is like 90 something.
Got it. Got it.
So you're going to see that Arlington, it's like spaced and it's a big place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so the people are really spaced out and they're in like
Mhm.
those office chairs. So it's like very relaxed. So and
Man.
the sound is delayed. So
Uh,
don't get scared. Because at first you're gonna go up there and you're gonna be like, I'm eating shit. But you're not. It's like the way that the sound bounces, especially when it's like
when it's not
not
that
as
many
full,
people, yeah.
Yeah.
it's gonna throw you off. But
You're
I
going
would
to
say,
work the shit out of the first two rows.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm gonna
yeah.
need people. I mean, it's funny. It reminds me of like having PTSD of like doing a cruise when like it's
Oh,
like it's kind of
right.
the same thing of like they make you because they go like, hey, go watch the comic in the big ass theater, which is like, yeah, like 1,000 people, and then there's like
Right.
200 spread around all
Right, right,
over,
right,
and then
right.
you're just there and like, well, and then so it kind of when you were describing it, kind of remind me of that,
Yeah,
you know.
it's a lot like that, and that'll throw you off. But I feel like
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have all done comedy in pandemic, but something I've noticed, I don't know if it's just here because this has been the only place that I've done comedy in the past year. people want crowd work extra.
Oh.
And my theory is that it's because they haven't had contact with anybody else. So people,
they need human interaction.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there was a guy I opened for
Please
Erica.
insult me.
Right.
I need this.
Right. People are like, pay attention to me. Like I opened for Erica Rhodes in January, and there was a guy who in the middle of her set, I'm not even kidding, just screamed, "This is the first time I've been outside in months."
Oh, wow.
Like,
wow.
You know what I mean?
It's like,
and now you're going to be outside of the venue.
Right. She wasn't even that mad because she said like I just heard a yell, and she said like the way he said it, it was like cute. He was just too excited.
But was he fighting with his wife or something? It's like, why do you always wear that shirt? This is the first time I've been out here. Let me wear my shirt. This is my favorite shirt.
I think people, honestly, though, I think Elena's right that they want to get fucked with a little bit because they're feeling so nervous about themselves. It's sort of like going to the first couple weeks of partying in college, where you go up and there's a bunch of people like sitting around like by the keg, like, what's your, you know, and they're just looking for that one guy to kind of break the ice and hope the first one to score, you know. So it's like playing t-ball, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's good because I mean, I was expecting to do a lot of crowd work anyways.
It's like I don't have material, so where do you come from? I mean, I'm sure it's a lot like that. I had the feeling like everywhere you go, everyone want to talk or want to like have some conversation or some kind of conversation, because of course, I mean, it's been rough, it's been crazy.
But it is weird. I don't know if you notice, like, because sometimes when I do virtual shows, it's kind of like the opposite. They don't for virtual shows. It's kind of like, they're like, do your thing. Like, I don't need you to do crowd work in front. And sometimes I do it because, you know, like, you need to do it because you feel like, are they even like, are you having fun?
I mean,
like, you know, so it's like, but so I think, but maybe it's because it's like live and stuff like that. I think it's more of a, people do want that more. It's more. The other
day, I did like a private gig for a company, and I started doing it. And it was, instead of being in Zoom, it was in WebEx, and WebEx is way more like a talk. You know, it's like
a TED Talk thing.
It's like a TED Talk kind of thing. So I was talking, and you just see like the names of these people. So I was like, I don't know I don't feel comfortable doing this. So I started asking like, there's people here, and you know, someone, you know, put the audio, and then someone else put the camera, and then I was like doing a bit, and then I just talk with someone, then another bit, and then talking with someone else, and that's the way I did it hour, because it was just like it was too sad to just try to talk with an empty void. And this way was like kind of like more conversational. So it was like, okay, we'll finish that bit. What about this guy it was like a TV show that you're doing. So that was interesting. It was interesting. But once again, it's like, it's weird
it's tough too. And I actually got kind of like, it's weird too, because you also get in a thing where like, if only one person wants to talk, then it's like you talk to that person too much, and it just becomes too much about like, all right, move on. It's like, yeah, but nobody wants to turn their mic on. It's like, how am I going to move on? So
I had that problem. Annoying. I did a virtual crowd work show. So people had to volunteer to like go in the little Zoom box on the top, and then you would just talk to them. But obviously it's like, it ends up being like the same 6 people
over and
that
over.
Volunteer all the time. And it's just like, you end up finding out everything about their whole lives.
Yeah. And then like, it just becomes a intervention.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Then you're just like, look, I think you have a problem. This is why we're here. This wasn't an actual comedy show. We're here to talk to, you know. So
we're here to help you out. Fabrizio,
but I'm excited to go to DC.
Oh yeah, we're excited to have you. I think it's
be around.
Yeah, Fabrizio, what was it like going? Was it different doing comedy in Chile and then doing comedy in the US? Like, how did that during pandemic? How different were those two things?
Well, I mean, I the cool thing is, because of the pandemic, I can do more shows in Chile. You know, they used to be like, you know, we have to pay you a ticket, so maybe next year when we have more budget. but this time it was like, okay, let's do it online. So I was able to do a lot of things from here without have to going. And then I had the chance to go for a month and a half, and it was just in the window of time when things were opening. So I was very lucky. And the comedy clubs are opening, and like there was like, I mean, once again, a lot of shows outdoors, but it was great to feel that okay, I'm going home and in the right time. So I was able to see all my friends in the clubs and just hang out and like feel back to normal in a way. Uh, and then here, I think the main difference between the shows here and there during this time is being, especially here in LA, it haven't been that much. I feel like in Latin America they still figure out ways to, of course, doing it illegally or and here in LA there's so many open spaces and there was not that many shows, so that was interesting. Like how maybe like the survival skills of Latinos are more, I don't know, they're more functional for times like this. And Americans kind of like, okay, we don't have the resources, okay, we're not gonna do anything till things come back. But yeah, in other countries it's like we need to do something because there's nothing else. So yeah, that was interesting. I'm sure. Well, when things go back to normal, I hope I can go back to Chile more. But it was just like that window of time I was there. It was very interesting to see what they were doing.
Do they have a big scene down there for comedy in general?
Well, now they have it. It was when I started, it was just me and two friends, and now, yeah, now there's like comedy clubs and legit venues just for comedy, and yeah, there's like people with podcasts and like everything like here. So that's been very interesting to see.
Wow, is it all in Spanish or do they have like English night or I don't know, something like that? If I were to take a trip.
There was one club that was doing like a show in English for a minute, but it wasn't that successful. I know that in Argentina they have a big one called Gringo Stand Up that they do every week or something.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, well, there was one time 2 years ago, a little bit more, that Neil Brennan was shooting a commercial in Chile. So a friend of mine figured out a way to talk to him, and we were like, "Hey, we can produce you a show if you want, like in a comedy club. I mean, of course, in English." And he was like, "Okay, let's try it." And yeah, we sold out like 4 shows, and it's like a venue of 200 people, and it was. I mean, that's when there's a lot of people who want to watch, who want to like see some comedy in English over
That's
there.
awesome.
So yeah, there's some room for that.
Yeah, I
Francisco,
think
do you ever do comedy in Spanish, or is it?
yeah, it's actually because me and Fabrizio were like opposite of like like how we met. It's like, oh, I want to work because he's always established in Spanish, and he's like, I want to do English, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to do Spanish. So it's like we're both been kind of like helping each other to work on those areas because I did a little bit when I've back a while back when I did in Venezuela, when I used to go to Venezuela to visit and stuff like that. But I've been doing more when I met Fabrizio and then Jesus. We actually started a group called Trifeta, where we basically it's kind of like it's just do a Spanish stand-up, but like just like the same thing that we do in English but in Spanish. So we kind of like set up like a monthly show at the Hollywood Improv where we bring, we perform, but we also had guests, and we had like Tom Segura come do one. We had, Ida Rodriguez do one. So we had people come over and that's the way that I've been doing, Spanish stand-up. I want to do more, that's definitely a thing, it's hard to do because again, like as we all know, we have to practice. We need places to practice. So at least the one that we're doing, the Trifeta one, that was like my place to practice. But now it's hard to like, hey, go do a show. Like people have asked me to do shows, for example, in Miami in Spanish. But I tell them like, look, I mean, if you want me to, it's gonna be like 25 minutes, maybe half hour. But I can't do an hour right now in Spanish because I don't have that material. I don't have that ability. If you wanted me to do it, so is where I am right now, but hopefully the thing was like before the pandemic, You know, we were supposed to kind of like go to Mexico with the whole trifecta thing and kind of perform there, and then hopefully do other shows in Latin America. I mean, hopefully we can start doing that again once everything gets back to normal. But that's where I am. But yeah, I love to. I think. I mean, I want to perform in both. You know, English and Spanish. I think
me
it's
too.
a huge thing.
Yeah, me too. And I'm curious how you guys do it, because I'm sure you don't just translate one joke to another, because I'm sure some that could work, but others you don't. Like, do you guys have two separate sets, or like, how do you?
Well, I have two separate sets because especially because if you think about Chile and then you think Mexico, it's like it's a different world.
So
already.
different. So different.
You know, so when I start traveling, going outside of Chile, first I did shows in Argentina, then Colombia, then Mexico. So all the time I was like shaping different sets. And I was like, okay, this thing works here, but in this country it's not like that. And here, like, this word means this and this means something else. So I was all the time doing that. And then when I moved to the States, I was like, okay, let's try to get the first couple of jokes to be translated, because it's kind of like safer in a way, you know. I already know these bits, and they fail, and I was like, okay, now I need to like rethink and change my mindset and just write in English from scratch. And I think now what's happening that is more interesting is like jokes that works in English, I translate them into Spanish and they still work, because
interesting.
That is interesting.
Because I put so much energy in these jokes in English that then when it's so easy for me to bring them back to Spanish, it's like way easier because I know the social norms and like the rest of the nuances of the language. So I've been doing that a lot, and it's been really nice to do that system now, because I can use jokes in both languages. But like the funny thing is, like, now they start in English.
Right, because English is harder to write. So once you get to your first language, it's easier.
It's way
for me.
Have you found that too? What do you think?
Yeah, for me it was actually because, again, I started in English, and even though I'm completely stuck in Spanish, like when I do stand up, it's all in my first natural instinct is English, and I think in English, and crowd work is in English, and this is like my thing. So like what I did is like obviously there's some bits that work only in English that work in Spanish. But a lot of my bits, I have also translated them, you know, and they've worked. I mean, and I think my key, what I learned is because a lot of them are very universal. So it has nothing to do with that like specific place or a specific location or a specific people. You know, they're very universal. So then that makes it easier for me to obviously translate, and it still works. And then the key for me is finding the right words to use.
Yeah.
Because that's the hard part, because in Spanish, I mean, in Latin America, you know, there's, you know, how many countries there are, you know, so like everybody has their own little like way to say one thing. So it's hard to like, okay, if I say this word, are they gonna get this? And also with my accent too, like when I speak, you know, with my Venezuelan accent, if I speak normal, like I speak very fast, and sometimes some words I don't pronounce, you know, like it's that very Caribbean, like so I also have to tell myself when I perform in Spanish, I have to slow down and pronounce better and be like, so I have to become like a newscaster kind of like type where you pronounce well, I have to speak slowly and use words that if you know Spanish, you will understand, you know, and that's what I like to do too, because I never grew up in Venezuela either. So like, that's another thing too, that sometimes people don't understand. Venezuelan people like in Miami, hey, come perform in Spanish. I'm like, well, you have to also realize that my bits are not going to have to do anything with Venezuela or the government, or I don't know anything about that. Like it's going to be very like talk about my life. So like, that's another thing too that I when people like especially from Venezuelan people, because they're used to Venezuelan comics that only talk about what's going on in Venezuela, and that's not me. So
you grew up here, right, in this area?
Yeah, I grew up in Maryland, in Bethesda, Rockville area, you know. So like I went to, you know, middle school, high school, and college over there. So like, and that's why I go back and think of like, oh, why is I like doing universal stuff, because that's where I grew up. Like all my friends growing up were, I mean, I would say like I was like I was during the week I was Frank, and then in the weekend I was Francisco. You know, because I had my American friends from school,
right.
you know, which were like, and and then I had my Latino friends, and they were all over from Latin America, Brazil and Mexico and Argentina. So like I grew up with like knowing how to like make everybody laugh, you know, that's understandable. So like, and that's what I like to do. I don't like to be specific about like, I'm gonna talk about Venezuela, you know, like, or you know, because that's not how I grew up.
Cool.
And so do you guys, have you guys been doing any of the trifecta shows in Spanish now in LA, or still only English?
No, we haven't. We haven't. We need to. We're waiting. Well, the thing is that we were doing that show at the Hollywood Improv, and we're waiting for that venue to come back and see what happened.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because as Francisco was telling, like we had Tom Segura, and we figured out that there was a lot of more people who are interested in shows in Spanish. And I mean, it's a city called Los Angeles. I mean, doesn't mean there's no more. But it's I mean, I was very proud of that show because I think it was one of the few in Spanish that you can see like, oh, you're gonna see good comics doing good material in another language, and I hope we can come back pretty soon with that.
Yeah, because it was also a good thing about it too. I think we established kind of like a show that's like, if you like, you didn't need to know the comics. You were just, you know, went there and realized, oh, it's going to be a fun comedy show. And I think that's in the Spanish culture, it's still not, I don't think people still like get that. Like you can go to a comedy show and just, even if you don't know the comics, you know, they can, because over here, like you see like people that do perform comedy in LA and they sell, it's because they have already a fan base. Right. So they come in and like, I think like very like music.
I think like the comic, like, or the culture in Latin America in general is like very TV based. Like people really like, if someone came out on a show, they'll watch it. Like, you know, and I think we were doing a show that didn't need to like be with famous people. It was just like good comics every weekend. I mean, we did once a month. It was once a month, but it was, I mean, once again, we were like growing to do more and more. And I think when we come back, we're going to come back strong.
Yeah.
There you go.
I also think, I mean, tell me if you guys agree, but I also think the Latin American culture, it's not in art. Comedy is like pretty new. Like Mexico City has a comedy scene, but it's really new because I think like the bigger arts in Latin America is like the more drama, the better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think it's like, I think right now comedy in Latin America is like when it started here, like in the 70s and 80s, you know, where there were only like few crazy people that did it and then slowly started building up and it's a culture, you know, like over there when it first started, you know, like I'm assuming people didn't know what it was. They would go to the comedy clubs and stuff like that. But now stand-up is such an American thing that anybody goes to a stand-up show, you kind of know how to behave. Like, I mean, most people, you know, like you kind of know the, like, oh, I have to, you know, what's my role? Like one of the first few things that surprised me when I did stand up in Spanish is that I talked to somebody in the crowd and they were like weirded out. They're like, what are you doing? Why are you talking to me? Because
they breaking the fourth wall.
Like they see it as like a play or like a one-man show, you know, like those, because those were the people that are in Venezuela that I grew up, remember watching, and they would do like jokes, you know, like Juanito came to the bar, you know, or a lot of imitations. And then when you this kind of stand-up, which is more like what the American stand-up is, it was still new, and I think people are still learning that, like you were saying, learning that culture of what it is, you know, what stand-up is.
And then Fabrizio, did you find because you live in LA now, right?
Yeah. 4 years ago I moved here. Yeah.
And so I'm assuming that when you moved, you'd made like a pretty big name for yourself in comedy in Latin America. And then you go to LA and you have like that whole culture shock. What was that like?
It was crazy. I mean, I'm still in the culture shock. I think I'm not at the other side yet. But at the beginning, of course, it was weirder because I moved here. I mean, I lived in Mexico for a year and a half. And that was a good transition, but still, I mean, I had a lot of ideas. I mean, I remember when I started in Chile, it was nothing. Like it was just me and two friends doing a show in a tango club. So in my mind, America was like, in some way here, the industry was so developed that, I mean, in my mind, it was like a whole system that it makes sense. And then I moved here and it doesn't make any sense. It's just like much more random and based on like clicks and friendship and like connections and like hang out in a club, more than like, I don't know what I thought it would be, that it will be like, I don't know, a system of merit, or I don't know. Of course, there's some of that. I mean, I was saying that it's none of that, but in my mind, I thought there was like a structure that it was built. But it's more similar than I thought to Chile in that way, you know. And it's been great because at the same time I have to like start all over again. As you were saying, in Chile and Latin America, I have a fan base and I can do bigger stuff and I can do big venues and all that. And here I was back in the open mic, talking to no one, and you know, like struggling with my English accent and you know all that, and like trying to figure out what is the right way to say something. And that humbled me a lot, you know, helped me a lot of like with dealing with like other issues you have in your brain, you know, like where you're supposed to be and like why you're doing this. And also it helped me to figure out that I really love this, you know, because I was like, I can drive an hour and a half for a 7 minutes gig, and I am happy, you know, I am not miserable. So that's when I learned like, oh, this is like for me, I'm doing what I love in the way I wanted to do it, and I'm learning and I'm discovering and I'm finding friends in the way, and that's amazing. So it's been an amazing journey, that's for sure.
Yeah,
and how did you
and
guys?
he also learned that he's a real boy.
Yeah.
That's true.
His name is Pinocho.
Yeah.
He's from Chile.
Yeah.
No, but I actually do. One thing I do want to say, yeah, like I do like the whole thing that Fabrizio is talking about, like starting over again. It's funny because that's what I'm feeling right now again with the whole pandemic. It's kind of like starting over again. Like, well, like you want to do this little bar gig and drive, you know, for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Like, yeah, I'll do it, you know. And I think, but it shows you like, yeah, I'm still excited about it. So that makes sense. It is a passion of what we have that we do. And then I also do, one of the reasons I became friends with Fabrizio, or that I like, is because, yeah, knowing that he already had a huge fan base in Chile and all this stuff. And like, he came here, he could have like, yeah, you know what, I'm good over there. I'm a big fish over there. I don't need to do this, you know, but like the fact that he was very humble and like, yeah, I'll do this, I'll do an open mic, I'll do this and all this stuff, you know, that's what I liked about him, because I was like, oh, this guy's actually, it's like true comedian, and it's not a guy that just wants to be famous and that's it, or has an ego. And yeah, him. And like another one that I think of is his name is Rafinha Bastos. He's Brazilian, and he's another one too that I also became friends with him because of the same thing. It's a guy who's huge in Brazil, you know, had like a talk show, was like the Tonight Show, you know, all this stuff. And like, and the same thing, he moved to LA to start from scratch and stuff like that, and wasn't, you know, and it's hard. I mean, I never had that feeling because I was never been big anywhere, but like to be like, you know, to be a star and to be like, oh, now I have to do this and do a show in front of 5 people at 1 a.m, you know, it hits your ego. So it's cool to be able to, like, you know, get past that and be like, you know what, I'm doing this for the right reasons, not just to be famous or anything like that. Yeah.
And did you guys meet at a show, or how did you guys meet?
Well, Fabrizio invited me to a worldwide event of his. Not kidding. It's like, hey, I'm the biggest star in Chile. Come see me. I was like, okay.
In a private plane. No. The story was like, we were in this thing called Más Mejor, that it was like an idea of the people from Broadway Video, the guys who made SNL, to have like a Latino online version of a cast.
Wasn't that Fred Armisen?
Yeah, Fred Armisen and Horatio Sanz, they created this whole thing, which was, it was a cool idea because they brought a lot of good talent from not from the US, but also from Latin America. Yeah.
So
And
the first thing I did when I moved here, I was like, I looked the names there and I just tried to write to all of them and just meet them. And Francisco, yeah, well, you know him. He's a great dude and super fun. And he also like very, I mean, all my friends that I met, like Francisco and Jesus, they been like helping me and being nice with me and like being right away like a friend. And that's great because yeah, in comedy you can find some jerks. You can find a lot of assholes. So I feel very lucky to have them as my friends.
That's great.
Right.
Yeah, especially friends. I mean, it's important to have friends in comedy, and especially friends that you think are really funny. I think is really is.
Well,
really
I think
important.
that's I think to me that's the most important thing. I mean, as a comic, I think like I've like I don't know, like I could be friends with you, but like not as a comedian. Maybe like hey, we can be friends as like if you're a comedian, but you're not that funny. I'm like I don't know if I could.
Also, because you have a lot of conversations about comedy, so it's hard when your friend is not funny.
Right.
I actually had a friend of mine that my manager kind of like, he's like, hey, you go check this guy out. So, because he's also moved here to see if he can, you know, hang out and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, I went to see a show and I was like, I even tell him right now, I was like, I judge you. I was like, I was going to judge you on that set. Like, if you didn't do good, I would have been like, yeah, I'm not gonna, and not because, and I don't judge people as a comedian because if they did good, I wanted to see if like this guy was actually a comedian, like how to handle himself or like, you know, having that, that swag when you go up there, even if you're not, even if the stuff's not working, you can tell somebody's funny or they know what they're doing. But yeah, so I remember doing that. I was like, oh, okay, this guy knows his doing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with me and Elena, we have a lot of things in common, luckily, but even after we talk about them for like 4 minutes, we're just going to end up talking about fucking comedy again.
It's true. You know? Yeah.
I mean, that's what you're going to do. I mean, yeah, I think you need friends in this industry that especially that are friends, but also that work in the industry because, you need people that also can give you good advice, you know, because like Fabrizio was saying, there's a lot of bad people out there and they're and jealous people or whatever.
It's hard to navigate like this specific industry. I feel that it's super random. It's hard to understand where things are going, what is success or not, especially now with like social media in the middle. You're like, it's more confusing. You know, you think that this is about being funny, but it's not really 100% about that. There's so many other factors
and
that can change your career. So it's just like it's make the journey way better if you have friends to talk about and enjoy the good and the bad parts of it. So I think that's it. Always try to give that advice to younger comics who are starting. It's like make friends because you're gonna need them.
And also those are the people that you're gonna work with, you know, like I mean if I get a, you know, luck of wood, if I get a show or something like and I, you know, I need some, I mean I'm pretty sure I'm gonna hire Fabrizio for what, you know, like either as a writer or to be part of the show or to be or whatever, you know, because I want people that are good and also that are friends and
you can trust
and stuff like that. They're not gonna be so, you know, and I think you need that. I think I mean, and you see examples of it, you know, like Adam Sandler and his crew, you know, he always puts the same people there, you know, and you know, so
Elena's gonna need security, I know.
Hey man, you gotta just get in, just get on the call sheet. That's all.
I mean, it is a very circuitous landscape, comedy is, but I think that's also what's kind of fun about it is it's adventurous and you can decide, hey, I'm going to buy a plane ticket, and I've done this before, and each month go to a new city and just show up, find the mics, do a killer set. You meet people there. You meet the people you got to know, the bigger players, the smaller players. You know, you stake things out. And there's more scenes in this country than I would have ever believed before I started. You know, it's a big, big landscape. I think it's kind of fun that way. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. And I think it's
sorry.
No, I was saying you can, it's like you said, it's like there's no norm, especially now anymore. Like you said, you could go to any city and perform there and get to know, even worldwide too. You can go England or Australia or anywhere, or
Sure.
Paris, and perform, and there's no rule now. There's no
And
rule.
the cool thing is that when you met another comic, it's kind of like you met someone who's been in Vietnam. You know, you connect right away. You know, it's funny because I met comics all over the world, and you know in their eyes that they've been like
they've seen some shit.
Yeah, they've seen some shit. You know, so you hang out with like the locals, and you right away figure out who is like, oh, that's the real comic here. That's the guy who's doing it for because they want to be famous. This is the guy who's like this and this, and it's like, I don't know. Once again, you feel like the community is the most important part of it. Like you have a community and, you know, jump from one community to another and, you know, hang out with different people who have the same passion is everything.
Yeah, sure. I think especially after pandemic, there's like a shared comic PTSD.
I love that. I love that you say it after pandemic, as it's gonna end someday. Never gonna end.
You really think it's never gonna end? Don't say that.
No, it will.
It's gonna end, but then it's gonna start a different one right away.
Oh.
No, this one you have to wear Zorro masks.
Yeah.
Just cover your.
Cooler.
I mean, just
you
can still see your eyes, but
the Ninja Turtle mask.
I realized that like it's hard to tell people that when you wear a mask, like who, you know, like even when you know, when I go to shows now and I'm like, somebody says hi to me, I'm like, who is that person? Because of a mask, it's hard to. So now I'm thinking like Batman, he had it all messed up. I mean, like, because you can't, like, he should have been wearing a mask that we wear now and nobody would have known, like, but like
covering the wrong part of his face.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, who are you?
yeah. It's like, come on, we know it's you, Ben Affleck.
Yeah, exactly. No, your eyebrows. How do I know who you are without seeing your eyebrows?
That happened to me the other day. Someone told me like, I saw you on the street and you didn't say hi. It's like, how am I gonna know that?
Yeah.
I mean, how you knew that I was me, first of all, and second is like, how you can't tell. I mean, if you see someone with like a mask in his face and sunglasses, it's like that could be anyone.
Plus, we're in a pandemic. You can't say hi anyway. So
exactly. You can kill 3 grannies if you say.
Or the best is because I've noticed because it's so automatic now. Like I've gone outside wearing a mask, sunglasses, and a hat.
Mm-hmm.
And so like no one can see any subtleties in your face. So even if you just like go to this,
which is hilarious. Now you can also even go into a bank like that, and the bank
I know.
says, come on in. How much money you want?
Yeah. Like, let me see your ID. Can't you tell it's me? Like, like there have been so many times where I'll do like some stuff, or like, you know, someone like a car stops and like lets you go, and it's, you know, usually I'll mouth like, thank you.
Yeah.
You just like turn wearing sunglasses and a mask. It's weird.
Yeah. Oh, and then so the people in the audience, that's a question. Are they wearing masks or are they not wearing? They're not wearing masks.
No, because they got to sell food at these places, so they make this rule. And they're like, okay, as long as you're sitting, but if you get up and don't put it on, then you're in trouble. I haven't seen anyone get in trouble yet. So.
Yeah, and that's the advantage of it being really spaced out.
Is
that people aren't scared.
Well, that's one of the reasons too. I wanted to do that.
Yeah, because
I mean, that's one of the reasons when I asked, like, because my agent was like, "Hey, you want to do it?" And I was like, because it was still, you know, back in January, and I'm like, I don't know, like, wait, hopefully to get the vaccine or anything like that. And I'm like, but then DC, one reason I want to do it was like, you know, because over there they take it more seriously. Over there, it's not like Florida or Texas, you know, like where it doesn't exist. And then also the venues, even though it's inside, it's so big and spread out. That's one of the reasons also I was like, I like that too. It's not like a little tiny thing where like everybody's close to you, you know, especially as a comic, you're on the stage by yourself and it's so high that it's, you know, you're very separated from people.
Yeah.
No, hey, you know, are you doing the merch table? That would be the only place.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not. I mean, I'm not bringing merch. I mean, like, I don't think I'm doing merch for, you know, until I get vaccinated or anything like that.
Security for you. I'm double vaccinated, you know.
Oh, okay. You're double vaccinated? So you had 4 vaccines?
Moderna and Pfizer.
Johnson & Johnson's like, I'm going for the Johnson & Johnson. It's like, So like you're becoming
Johnson and Johnson and Johnson and Johnson.
I want to be part of X-Men.
Boutros, golly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll bring some, maybe, I don't know. I'll think about it if I bring some, but I mean, I'm also like, I'm so focused on just trying to do a good show.
Right.
And like, that is more about like, let me just have a good show and, you know, don't worry so much about that, you know.
But we can sell hand soap or, you know.
Like,
yeah. Like, just hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer and just put
That's a good idea.
And just even buy it from CVS and just put like just initials on there. It's like, is this? Wait, it says it says right there. No, it says Walgreens.
Yeah, that'll be $40. No, but it's you'll see you'll like it. And in pandemic, I mean, we've been really lucky to have the option to have that venue because also they've been open for a long time because it's Virginia, and Virginia is a lot more relaxed than DC.
Yeah, because I was gonna do the DC. The DC one, you know, that's the one I was gonna do, and then it closed and stuff like that. So like that's why they moved me to this one. But yeah,
I'll tell you, I think you got off lucky. I mean, I wish the DC one was still around, but for something like a pandemic, that would have been a fucking mess. I mean, and everything, everyone going to get chips and beer.
That's true.
That's hard. Yeah, remember that have like a one bar at the side, so everyone have to go to the same place.
It's cool because it's small and it's kind of like that New York vibe, you know, which I love. But yeah, for a pandemic right now, it's better the Arlington one.
Just don't think you're bombing. It's the way the sound bounces. It'll throw you off.
Unless somebody yells.
Even bombing live is better than Zoom.
100%. 100%. Well, Zoom, you don't know if you're bombing, so you just think you're bombing all the time because you can't hear anything.
You know what is the worst part about Zoom shows? It's like the feeling after the show ends and you're alone in your room, but you have the energy that you were outside. Yeah, so you're like, that happened to me. I just finished a show and it's like I don't know, 11. My wife is sleeping, but I have like the energy of like, hey, I just tried this joke tonight.
I sweated on Zoom shows, and I don't sweat when I do like live shows. And I swear, I was like, why am I after the show? I'm like, I did it. I'm sweating. Like I'm like, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to the kitchen. Okay, cool.
You're like, I'm wearing pajamas.
Yeah,
so weird. The weirdest feeling is that like, I did it, and then it's like, oh, I'm alone.
Because at least you have when you do a show, however it happens, at least you have that drive or that walk to think about it, to be like, maybe I should have done that. Oh, it went well, you know, cool. But
or like just to like escalate the energy, to like just go home and be like a different person. But you have like the energy of on stage, and then you're like, it's
then
like
you just turn around.
I think it like feels when you have an orgasm, and then it's like you're like, what? I'm back to normal.
Yeah, and then you're like, okay, well that's done.
Hope I pass out. Yeah.
Wait, you passed out after orgasms?
I mean, if I'm lucky.
Okay.
In a good day.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a major. Well, if you're that makes sense, because if you already had like 6 vaccines, that's one of the side effects.
I mean, your antibodies are like eating you alive, doing your energy.
He's an X-Men now.
Yeah. Just after sexy fades for a while, but that's it. Other than that, an X-Man.
Cool. Well, guys, what do you got besides Arlington? Anything after that?
For me, I may have a show in Montana that I don't know if it's happening or not. It's gonna be in Spanish, so I still don't, it's like in first of May, I think, but I don't have any details of it yet. But and then hopefully, I mean, I'm trying to set up more shows. You know, hopefully there's gonna be more shows here in LA too, and we can get back on the whole trifecta thing as well. So, but I always tell people, check out my social media page, you know, Instagram or website, and you know, that's where I put all my stuff.
Fantastic.
For me, the same. I have something coming up. I'm gonna go to Florida, I think, when my vaccine kick in. So I'm waiting for that to schedule a show over there. And I'm gonna do 2 nights, one's English, one Spanish. So let's see what happened with that. But like also in my social media, we'll announce everything.
Nice.
And what's your social media? What are both of your social medias so that people can find you?
Well, we have different ones, and mine is we're not sharing accounts, and mine is at Fabrizio Copano. So everywhere, in every single piece of social media.
Fantastic.
And mine is at Francisco Ramos on Twitter, and then at F Ramos Comedy on everywhere else, Instagram, TikTok, and Venmo. So if you wanna just give me money, you can just always do that as well.
Yeah. Brilliant. Cash App too.
Cash App, yeah. So is that like Venmo? Is that like the competition of Venmo?
It's the Square version of Venmo.
Oh, it's a Square one. Okay. Yeah, the Square thing I use for merch stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Well, good. And we have the Counter Currents Showcase April 29th at Arlington Cinema Draft House, 7 o'clock. It'll be myself and Elena, of course, along with Eddie Morrison, Bridget Gearin. Who else, Elena?
Jack Coleman.
Jack Coleman and Chris Allen.
And Chris Allen. And, if you guys want to fly back to DC, both of you guys are welcome to come perform.
I'm there.
On the show.
I'm there.
Nice.
Sign me up.
Come do a set. And come see us. We want to thank you guys for being on the pod.
Thank you for having
us. This is fun.
Absolutely. And we'll see you there at Arlington.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. You guys plug your dates at Arlington.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We are coming to.
That was the whole point.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to edit that? No, yeah. And then we're gonna be there. Me and Fabrizio at April 9 and 10th at Arlington Draft House. 2 shows, Friday and Saturday. I think they're 7 and 9 p.m. So yes, come to the show. And if you want to come more than once, come, because I'm pretty sure all the shows are going to be very different. I'm pretty sure. So please come.
Yeah, please come. It's going to be fun.
Cool. All right, everybody. Peace.
Bye
guys. Bye.
Hi, thank you.